Hello YouTube, today I wanted to bring my Dark Magician deck profile to you guys. I just actually came second at Locals, only lost to Sprites, and I almost won. Was down to the final round, and I bricked pretty hard. There were several cards that could have saved me and won me the game, but I did not draw them. So I wanted to bring my deck profile to you today. This is a pretty meta Dark Magician. It's a slow playing control deck, so you'll see here. Let's get into it. Alright, to start us off, we got one Palladium and our two Dark Magicians. We use only two Dark Magicians, three can be a bit of a brick, and then we also use our Palladium in replacement of our third Dark Magician. When he's destroyed, you can summon Dark Magician, he gains double the attack against dark monsters, you can special summon them when you draw, but we mainly just use this as our Soul Servant draw material, so you just kind of want to get him to the graveyard. You can also use them for your Ebon material, because you can't use two Dark Magicians in full combo with Ebon. Then we play one copy of Illusion, and then two copies of Dark Magician Girl. Dark Magician Girl is essentially used for most of our combos with the Dark Magician, and a lot of our plays. We only play two. One, if you play one, if she gets banished, you're going to lose a lot of your combos, so playing 2 and 2 I find to be pretty good. And then we use our one Illusion. She helps search Dark Magician as a free special summon with a discard of the hand. Okay, not free, but discard from the hand, get the special summoner. And she can buff one of your monsters by discarding her from the hand or attributing her on the field to buff one of your dark spellcasters, which can give you the edge in combat sometime during battle. Then we play a single copy of Timaeus. Timaeus is essentially just used to get some of her fusion materials out, like Dragoon, and a couple other plays. He is searchable with Chaos. A lot of people forget that because he lists Dark Magician in his text. He's also a special summon by discarding a Dark Magician spell or trap card or a spellcaster from the field. So he's a 2800 beat stick with a once per turn polymerization effect. Some people say he's a brick. I disagree. He is a great way to get into your Dragoons and your Dragon Knights. Two copies of Illusion of Chaos. And then two copies of Prep Rites, the card to search him. So I play 2 and 2. I've tried 3 and 2 and 3 and 2 and 3 and 3. It's just I do not want to see two of these in my hand at one time. If that is, it's a useless card in my hand. There's not much I can do with it. Playing two of these is not so bad. They're not once per turn. You can use it to add Chaos, and Chaos can be used to add any Dark Magician monster from your hand. Most of the time you'll be going in the Souls with that, but I will also use it to go in the Rod, Timaeus, and Magi-Kuriboh every so often, or just get a Dark Magician Girl to my hand if need be, or Dark Magician. And then Prep Rite, if you already have Illusion in your hand, Prep Rite is a good bait for Ash. Then of course our favorite opening card, we want to see 3 copy of Magician's Souls. We definitely want to see this with an Illusion in our hand. If not, Illusion will get this to our hand. This is how we get Dark Magician Girl in the graveyard or Dark Magician in play, and that's great for a lot of our combos. We can also use this to send from the field or hand your up to 2 spell or trap cards to draw that many, and sending is really important, and I'll get into that later with how that can go into a lot of your combos and save you from your own floodgates. Most people would play 3, but I play 2 Magician's Rod. These can basically loop each other when you get one into play. Summon one, you get to add a Dark Magician spell or trap card directly to your hand. Then, if you play a spell or trap card during your opponent's turn, you contribute a spellcaster to add this card back to your hand from your graveyard. If you have 2, you can essentially just loop them back together. Use one to get the spell card to your hand, get rid of it, get it in the graveyard, use the next one, and then you contribute the one to get him back to your hand. And then we play one Magi-Kuriboh in placement of the third Rod. So Magi-Kuriboh, when you take battle damage of any kind, you can special summon a Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl directly from the deck, and when a spellcaster is destroyed, you can add this card back to your hand. Great way, it's a once per turn for both, but it's a great way to basically infinitely loop every turn a Dark Magician play. Then this is the part that's a little weird. We play one Ash, one Chocolate, and one Berry. So this is what I recommend going in the first round, and then I would say take any of these out for your 3 hand traps that match what your opponent is going. Like if you're playing sprites, use 3 Ghost Ogres, maybe 2 Ghost Ogres and an Ash. I know the meta is very big on hand traps. This is more of a control style deck. I believe, if I counted properly, it's a 44 card deck. I may have taken a card out or 2. But it's a slow playing control style deck, and we don't want to go for the OTK. It doesn't mean it can't OTK. Main negates first turn, but we also use Barry if we go first, since we're not sure if we're going first during the first game. We want to have both. And if you play Barry first, she searches a Magician Girl to your hand. If they try to negate it with an Ash or an Effect Failure, you can special summon that Magician Girl to the field, which we want to get Chocolate out, which we will use to discard a Spellcaster to draw 1 card. And then we will use her to, if they attack her, we get to special summon that Spellcaster back. She's also fairly decent late game if you're just trying to put up a defense. Use her to special summon your Palladium or your Dragoon back. But she has to be declared for an attack first. So as long as they can't negate her, that's okay. And then Barry, if she's attacked, you can special summon the Magician Girl from your deck as well. It's a great way to get Dark Magician Girl or Chocolate into play to start drawing cards and get up some of a defense and wall. But going into the next games, I recommend taking them out for hand traps that suit the style of the player. 3 Soul Servants. So this is your best draw card. This combos with tons of cards in the deck, like the Dark Magicians and Magician Circle. Or Dark Magic Circle. So Soul Servant allows you to play any Dark Magician card from your graveyard or deck straight to the top of your deck. You don't get to draw it right away, but you can then banish this card from your graveyard to draw as many Dark Magicians or Dark Magician Girls or Palladiums that you have in play, which means if you have a Dark Magician on the field and a Dark Magician Girl in the graveyard, you can draw 2 cards. Now, if you have 2 Dark Magicians, that's only 1 card to draw. It only counts 1 per each. But if you get all 3 in your graveyard or on the field or in any combination, you can use this to draw 3 cards. It is one of the best cards, and I will show you other cards that combo with it later to get that card to your hand without having to banish. Then we play our 2 copies of Magician Circles, and this is one of the way that combos with Soul Servant. So if you play Magician Circle, Dark Magic Circle, I'm sorry, you can quick play Soul Servant and Chain. And what that does is, this allows you to look at the top 3 cards of your deck and put them in any order you want. You can add a Dark Magician spell or trap card to your hand, or a Dark Magician to your hand. So say you don't open with the card you need, but you have a Soul Servant in this, you play Magician Circle, or Dark Magic Circle, and then you chain Soul Servant. You get to pick the spell card you want, which I'll usually pick the field spell, Magician Salvation, and you get that directly to your hand then, with this card. And then you get to rearrange the next 2, and I'll show you how that can even go into further plays right down the road. And then I also play 1 copy of Piercing the Darkness, so this is a one-off because it combos with a couple cards in the deck, but it's mainly just to help you get a beat stick on the field, but it also acts as an extra draw card. Not essential for the deck, it can be taken out for other things like Droplet or some negates. And any of the side deck cards, this is an option you can take out if it doesn't work well against your opponent. But there is a 3-card combo with this card, I'll show you later down the road, that gives you a pretty unstoppable board. But mainly if you summon Dark Magician, you can draw 1 card, and if you use it for fusion material, that fusion monster now gains the opponent monster's attack during battle step. So it makes your Dark Magician and the fusion material it's used for as a pretty big beat stick on the field, and it helps you to draw that extra card every so often. Then we play 1 Bond, which is searchable with Rod and Soul Servant, and then that also allows us, by playing Bond, if Dark Magician is in play, we special summon Dark Magician Girl to the field, and then we can set either a Dark Burning Magic or a Dark Magic Attack. So these are all searchable with Rod, and then Dark Magic Attack is also searchable with Eternal Soul, a trap card later down the road. So Bond can set these 2 and summon Girl. Dark Burning Magic is one of my favorite opening plays. You use Magician Souls to open with Dark Magician, and then you play a Rod to get Bond, and play Bond summons your girl and sets this. This is a board wipe. That's all it is. If Dark Magician Girl and Dark Magician are on the field, you get to board wipe your opponent, and it's a quick play spell. And there's plenty of ways to defend your Dark Magician and Dark Magician Girl to make sure you can get this card to go off, and even trick your opponent into thinking that it's not going to work, and then you show them it does. And then this is essentially just Harpy Feather Duster. If you have Dark Magician in play, destroy all their spell and trap cards. For fusion spells, I play a single copy of Secrets of Dark Magic, the Eye of Timaeus, and a Super Polymerization. So Secrets of Dark Magic is a quick play fusion spell, but also a ritual spell. It can summon the Illusion of Chaos, or it can fusion summon all of your Dark Magician fusion monsters, if you have the right materials in your hand or field. The Eye of Timaeus, if you have Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl, even you can special summon any Dark Magician fusion material fusion monster, like your Dragoon, your Dark Magicians, or any of the other ones I'll show you from the extra deck. This card is not searchable though. That's the one downside of it, and the reason why it's not searchable is it doesn't actually state Dark Magicians in the text. It says Dark Magician monsters, so it's not searchable with Rod or Souls, but it is a great way to get your Dragoon out and any other Dark Magician fusion monster to get around certain plays. And then we play our single copy of Super Poly. Now you can play more. I have cards that I can show you to take out in side deck for more Super Polys, but this is mainly to get rid of your opponent's monsters and to use your Dark Magician to get into your fusion monsters without having to waste your extra monsters. And there's a couple plays that Super Poly goes well with, which I'll show you with my extra deck. 1 Terraforming, 2 Search our field spells, 1 Secret Village. For one of her field spells, you can play a second one of Secret Village. This shuts down your opponent's spell cards, as long as they don't control spellcasters, and you do. And then 1 copy of Salvation. Salvation sets Eternal Soul directly from the deck. One of the best cards you want to see, opening hand. It also, when you summon Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl, you get to summon the other one from the graveyard, allowing you to go into a lot of your plays and build some defenses against your opponent, keep your magicians in play. And if you have that on the field with Dark Burning Magic, if they get rid of Dark Magician, you can Eternal Soul into the field and get your Dark Burning Magic back into use. Okay, and then from our field spell, we play 2 Eternal Souls. The field spell plays Eternal Soul directly from the deck, and then Eternal Soul here, even though it'll be played face down during your opponent's turn, you can flip it face up. It defends your Dark Magician from all opponent card effects, and you can also activate 1 effect per turn of Eternal Soul. The first effect is to special summon 1 Dark Magician from your hand or graveyard, and then that can trigger your field spell or Dark Magic Circle to go into some of your combos. You can also add 1 Dark Magic attack directly from the deck to your hand, which is Harpy Feather Duster, so a good play is to, at the end of your opponent's turn, flip this face up if you didn't have Dark Magician to summon that turn or didn't need to. Flip this face up during the end phase to add your Dark Magic attack, and then you special summon Dark Magician first thing on your turn to play your Dark Magic attack to get rid of your opponent's backboard. And then the one downside of this card is when it's destroyed, it destroys all your cards on the field. So how we get around that is our Magician's Combination. We play 1 of these. This card is also searchable with Rod. Almost pretty much every Dark Magician card is. So with Magician's Combination, you can swap a Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl with the other of them from your graveyard or hand from the field. So you take 1 from the field and swap it with 1 in the graveyard or your hand by sending it to the graveyard. And then you get to negate a card on the field. So if Eternal Soul goes off to pop your field, you can chain this to Eternal Soul to take Dark Magician Girl from the field, put it in the graveyard, and take Dark Magician in the graveyard and put it on the field, and then all your cards won't be destroyed. Also, it's a good out for Zeus. If your opponent goes into Zeus, flip this face up. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard while face up, you get to pop 1 card on the field. So that if they go for a lot of board wipes or have a lot of destruction power, you can kind of punish them in response to that. If a player goes into Zeus, you play that, they pop your field, you pop Zeus, and now no players have any cards. 2 skill drains, which act as our main floodgates because a lot of our cards activate from the hand or in the graveyard. So we can play around skill drain other than Chocolate and Magician Girl and our extra deck monsters. And then we play 1 Gozen Match as well as a floodgate because this shuts down a lot of meta decks. Some meta decks can play around this super easy, which is why we only play 1 to start. You can add in another from the side deck if Gozen Match works against your opponent, and then you take Gozen Match out if you're going up against something like Marincess or Dragon Lynx. They're all essentially dark and all water, so that doesn't work against them. So you take the cards out like this, and you just add another skill drain, which will be in the side deck. 1 Solemn Judgment in the first match, and 1 Called By. I always recommend keeping Called By in. These are your 2 main savior cards. Called By is the stop hand traps. This deck gets shut down by hand traps, so you really need that in here. But Solemn Judgment, this defends your back row until you know what your opponent's playing. If they have a lot of backboard removal, you might need to keep this in here. But after seeing what your opponent has, because this is a hefty price, but it's an Omni Negate, so after you know what your opponent has, maybe swap it out for something in the extra deck, or I'm sorry, the side deck, that works better than a Solemn Judgment, so you're not paying such a hefty cost, but still have something that works against your opponent. Okay, so for our extra deck, we have the Dark Magicians. The Dark Magicians is essentially your favorite little boss utility monster. He's not your most powerful, but anytime an opponent's spell or trap card or effect is activated, or even you play a spell or trap card, you can draw 1 card once per turn, and if this is destroyed, you get to special summon your Dark Magicians to the field. And combos really well with Soul Servant. You play Soul Servant, you put any Dark Magician card on top of the deck, his effect goes off to draw that card, you don't even have to use your Banish to draw that card. Then we have 1 Dragoon. Now I would recommend maybe playing 2 of the Dark Magicians and 2 Dragoons, but I only play 1 of each. I like a very diverse deck. We're going to why you would play 2 when we get to the side deck. So Dragoon is your main boss monster. You don't want to rely on him. Don't always out that he is going to be your savior, but he is an incredibly powerful boss monster. People will have a hard time dealing with him. Comboed with some of your floodgates, it can really shut your opponent down immediately and end the game right there. Then we play 1 Master of Chaos. Master of Chaos can special summon 1 of your Dark or Light from the graveyard, and then you contribute a Dark and Light to banish all your opponent's cards. When he's sent to the graveyard, you get a spell card back. Great board wipe. And you can actually use your Illusion of Chaos with your quick play spell to fusion summon him. And you can use cards like the Eye of Timaeus to fusion summon any of these Dark Magician cards. Then we have 1 copy of Dark Calvary. We mainly use him, not for his negate. If something's targeted, you can discard a card to negate it, but we use him for his piercing damage. He gains a buff for spell and trap cards on the field and graveyard, and deals piercing damage to get around those Crooked Hook players. So then we have Dark Magician the Dragonite and Dark Magician Girl the Dragonite. So she's not very necessary. I mainly use her because if you get stuck with Timaeus and no Dark Magician but can get Girl out, you can at least go into her and use her quick effect as an interrupt during your opponent's turn to destroy 1 card by discarding a card from your hand. The Dragonite, on the other hand, is he counts as Dark Magician on the field, so you can use Eternal Soul to summon him from the graveyard, and he is defended from Eternal Soul with Eternal Soul's effect. Comboed with Piercing the Darkness, the Dragonite defends your back row, so he defends Eternal Soul and Piercing the Darkness, and then Piercing the Darkness makes him swing over any monster attack. So it's a very powerful field with just those 3 cards, the Dragonite, Piercing the Darkness, and Eternal Soul. Then for our super poly targets, 2 monsters of the same typing and the same attribute but different names, and you can super poly him, and when he's sent to the graveyard you get to draw a card to help make up for that card you just discarded. And then that also allows you to steal some of your opponent's monsters and use them as super poly targets to help clear their board. Another one would be Starving Venom if they're playing a dark deck, or if you have your 2 dark monsters on the field, maybe Dark Magician and they have a dark, you can go into Starving Venom, and then that allows you, comboed with Skill Drain, you can set up a pretty good defense there, where if he's destroyed, he destroys all your opponent's special summon monsters. So with Skill Drain, it's a pretty good board to just sit and wait on till you can get your setup. And then Quintet, he's not always the easiest to use with Super Poly. He was much easier to summon when Verte and Magic Life's Fusion were in the deck. But with going against spellcasters, if he's using spellcasters, you want to have this available so that way you can steal their spellcasters to make sure your secret village is still viable. Plus he's a board wipe if you can get 5 of your spellcasters to fusion summon into him. Then we have one Eben, one Red Eyes Flare, and one Naruto. So Eben, we mainly want to use with Palladium and Dark Magician, or to rank up from Naruto. And by using Eben, we can get an extra banish on the field, also get our Dark Magician into play. Red Eyes is mainly used to deal extra burn damage to our opponent. Say we get 2 Dark Magicians to attack directly, but can't finish him off. Go into this guy. If they have a big play next turn and can't get rid of him right away, they might finish themselves off or drop their life points pretty low. And then Naruto is mainly used to up rank into our Eben, but we can also use Naruto to act as a spell and trap card negate if we need to get an extra negate out on the field. And then if we want to up rank from any of them, we can go into our Zeus. Now I would recommend playing a Defleur over a Zeus. I just don't have the money for that. But our Ash Blossom and Dark Magician can make Defleur, so I would recommend that over Zeus, but if not, we can rank up into him, get our board wipes. And then for our Link monsters, we play one Dark Charmer. He allows us to steal one of our opponent's Dark monsters from the graveyard, but if not, our main purpose for him is when he's sent to the graveyard and destroyed, we get to add one of our cards like Rod or Magician's Souls directly from the deck to hand to help give us some of that extra utility support. And then that's searching support. And then we have our last boss monster, Black Luster Soldier. Now you can go with an access code talker here, but you know, this is a Yugi themed deck and it's pretty good. I actually came second multiple times at our locals with it. Black Luster is another great boss monster. Doesn't really combo well with Eternal Soul because he can be destroyed by it. Okay, and for the side deck, we have one Ash Blossom. We already have one in the deck. You can always run an extra one other. You can have 2 in the side deck if you want, but I recommend 3 Ghost Ogres right now because of the meta with sprites. It really helps deal with sprites. If you're going against Marincess or very special summon heavy decks, add in Nibiru, especially you can take out Gozen Match for Nibiru if you're going up against a deck that's a lot of the same element. For some quick plays, we have one Magic Cyclone to deal with decks that are trying to use Spell Canceller or are very spell and trap heavy. One Droplet if you want to take out a Skill Drain or a Gozen Match to give yourself some extra negates. And an extra Super Poly if Super Poly is a strong card against your opponent. You definitely want to swap out for 2 of those. You can run an extra Secret Village. That way you can stop your opponent's spell cards if they have no spellcasters. That's definitely one you want to run. You also have an extra Gozen Match. I had an extra Skill Drain. It's in one of my other decks right now. But for another trap card, I'd recommend a 3rd Skill Drain because you have 2 in the main deck. So I'd add another Skill Drain here. And then a Dark Ruler No More. That's good if you're going second, so you can take out your Called By or some of your, maybe your Chocolate or hand traps if you want. It depends on what your opponent's playing. If your opponent is playing a very banish-heavy deck, you might want to play an extra Dark Magician. And then for the final card, I recommend a Magicalized Fusion, but only if you're going to play duplicates of Dragoon and the Dark Magician, which you can side deck in duplicates of them, or you can add, if you don't want to use Magicalized Fusion, you can add a Dark Magic Veil, and that allows you to get some extra special summons for the cost of 1,000 life points. And if you're gonna play 3 Dark Magicians, I might recommend a Magician's Navigation if you want to play 3 Dark Magicians to help you prevent you from freaking with them. But the side deck is quite diverse. You can change what you want out of that depending on what is going on at your current locals. yeah, that's the deck. Hope you guys like it. Let me know what you think.